Good morning. Back again, Ghetto Gospel. Today we're talking about being formless. Be formless like water. Don't allow yourself to be defined by anything. Don't define God as one particular thing. Don't define people as one particular thing. Be formless, have a formless view of life. Have a formless view of life. Right. So the first step in being formless is how we view God. How we view God, right? So be formless in the idea of God. Be formless in the idea of God. Do not have one particular outlook on life in any walks of life. So, you can see that? Oh, okay. So, the idea of God, how we perceive God, He's not one particular religion. He's not one specific race, person, beauty standards, nature, object, lifestyle, or anything. He's not none of those things. So he's not no religion, he's not me, he's just not particularly you. He's not no particular race. He's no particular person, know how a person should look. He's no particular beauty standards. He's no particular of nature, of object. You can't look to the sun for God and things of that nature, right? He's no particular object, no car, no lifestyle, no house, no nothing. He can't be defined, right? No particular animal defines God. He's all these things. He's formless. He's formless. And everything, there's a purpose. You see? So since God is none of these things, to be formless, we shouldn't show favoritism to any of these things, right? I'm not right there, right there. And it's just extra. Don't look at none of these things as higher than the other. Although we all choose what we do, the clothes we wear, the car we drive, we choose our religion, or if we're religious, we choose our spiritual system, if we're spiritual. But don't put none of these things above the other. Be open-minded. We're all of one people, and God is in everything. He's in every walk of life, right? And the powerful verse in being formless that I want to share today is my favorite verse, which is Proverbs 19 and 21, which says, Proverbs 19 and 21, right? Right? What does this verse say? Right? Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails, right? Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it's the Lord's plan that prevails, right? So this is the quote that I keep dear to me because I understand that I don't know all the answers, and things not gonna always line up the way I want or go my way. So I have to be open to God's way and know that His way is what prevails. And that's a part of being formless, because when you're formless, you're not stuck in your ways. You do what you're supposed to do in that moment, at that moment. You're not stuck to a specific way of living. You're not being stubborn. When God comes in your life and He says He changed certain plans in your life and things not going your way, you will be open to adapt, because you haven't formed yourself to be one specific way, or you haven't convinced yourself or programmed yourself to be one specific way. You see, because you understand that it's not your plans, it's God's plan. So with that verse of understanding that God's plan prevails, practice being open to what God's doing and adapting to certain circumstances and situations that come in your life, and knowing what you have control over and what you don't have control over, to help you be formless and know that every day you're growing, you're evolving, you're adapting. That's all the part of being formless, because different days, different weeks, different years, and different moments all require different actions. You see, all require different steps. You see, we can become stuck into how we see things, and we can put certain things over another. There's a time to be soft, there's a time to be hard, there's a time to go to war, there's a time to be peaceful, there's a time to spend money, there's a time to save money, there's a time to plan, there's a time to not plan. There's a time to have fun, there's a time to not have fun, there's a time to be serious, there's a time not to be serious. We shouldn't get stuck and put any of these things above each other. You see, but just let God lead us into when it's time to do these particular things. Because when we lead ourselves and we're not open to what He's saying, because we didn't form on when we do this and when we do that, forming our own mind and not being in the moment, the power of now, we can block what God is telling us in this moment to do, because we already programmed ourselves to say, you know what, next week I'm gonna wear these clothes and I'm gonna go to this place. All right, that's cool, but what if we gotta program ourselves to what if that don't happen? What you gonna do, or how you gonna feel? Or when certain obstacles come in our way, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna be open to hear God's voice if things happen to change and things don't go your way? You see? So be formless. Okay, I had got into live formless. So we had to live formless, right? So a part of living formless is kind of what I got into. About our life and how to adapt and adjust to life. A part of living formless that can be the best example to living formless is when we meditate. Is when we meditate, we sit by ourselves, we put our phones down, sit by ourselves, turn off all the TVs, and just meditate and zone out into a deeper space, right? And the reason why that's formless is because when you meditate, you're not identified with anything in the world. You're not attached to anything. You're taking yourself into the galaxy, into the space, and space has no form. Space is eternal. It has no form. You're not identifying yourself with nothing around you. You're not identifying yourself with what you do for a living, who you are, the race you are, your gender, the things you love. You're not identifying yourself with the food you like to eat, the clothes you wear, what you do on a daily basis. You're just meditating. You let whatever's in that moment be in that moment, and you're at like a high bliss, peace, right? So that's a part of living formless within yourself, because when we live formless, a part of living formless is one, I said meditate. Cause meditation, it detaches you from the physical world, from the things you're attached to. Right? So a form of meditation, it takes you away from all the things, the physical attachments of the things you love, right? Because you can be attached to certain physicalities, certain hobbies, certain TV shows, certain ways of life. You can be attached to so many different things, your job, what you do for a living, how you see the world. But when you meditate, you're detaching yourself from all these things and you're becoming formless, because without that meditation, you done formed yourself into whatever it is you're attached to, right? So the most important thing I would say about being formless and programming yourself to be formless is when you become formless in your thoughts, in your emotions, your flesh, your spirituality, you're open to God's direction. That's the most important thing. You're open to God's direction. That's the most important thing about being formless. Because God can change what he wants you to do at the drop of a dime. And you have to be open. You have to be you when you're formless and you're not attached. Cause having your own identity, that's cool. But don't get attached to your own identity, because every day is a new day. Every year is a new year. We grow, we evolve, we adapt, we see things differently. The world evolves, and we have to evolve. We can't be stuck in our ways, because we get lost. We get lost in the sauce. We get left behind, right? So staying open to God's direction is a part of being formless, because he tells you what to do and when to do it. And you understand that it's not you directing yourself. You're just listening to your spirit. You're not attached to any of these things. So your spirit has the ability to come in and tell you where to go, what to do, when, where, and why at, right? So I'm not saying don't plan, and I'm not saying don't lead your life, but the main thing is don't become attached. You see, because if you become attached to your religion, attached to your race, attached to particular people, beauty standards, attached to nature, object, lifestyle, attached to what you see, attached to how you see life, then you already blocking God out. You see, because you're attached. But if you just balance these things out and stay with an open mind, like this verse says, knowing that it is God, knowing that God's way prevails, right? He is able to come in and tell you. So you may be living the way you want to live and doing what you want to do, right? And tragedy can happen at any time. Certain things can happen at any time. Bills, problems, you have to spend money on at any time. And things like that. And if you're stuck in your ways and you're stuck in how you see things and stuck in what you do all the time, you're not going to be open to God's direction in that particular moment when things happen. Like, we're not able to control life, right? So when things happen, you're not going to be open to God's direction if you're stuck on how you see things, and stuck on how you do, and stuck on your ego, and stuck on your pride, right? So you have to be open to God's direction. And knowing that things not gonna always go your way, right? So that made me think of a particular time, which was like, 2-3 weeks ago, I believe. I told myself every 2 weeks, right, I was gonna have a message to share. I was gonna do my ghetto gospel, right, every 2 weeks. So tragedy stuck, right? My car broke down. My good friend was able to bring me here to do it, but I really, in my mind, I'm thinking like, well, my ego is telling me like, you gotta do it because you promised yourself you're gonna do this every 2 weeks. But the situation at hand was how my car was, how everything was going that day. It was giving me signs that I shouldn't have did it, but me keeping a promise to myself, I kind of forced it. And I'm not even sure if I forced it or I did the right thing or I did the wrong thing, but that's just a prime example of sometimes we wanna, everything can be going the opposite and telling us just to let go and not do anything, and not beat yourself up if you don't keep your word that day or that moment, because you're making this promise to yourself because you're attached to what you said you was gonna do, or you're attached to how you've been living, or you're attached to the norm of your life. But when God comes to try to detach you, you don't want to let go. So that particular Sunday, I didn't want to let go. I wanted to keep doing it because of the promise to myself. And thank God my good friend brought me here and I was able to do it. Now, I don't know if I was wrong or right by that, but that's just a prime example of sometimes we have to let go when things don't work in our favor. And every sign is showing us to let go, to be detached, right? So I say be formless. We shouldn't get caught up on things going our way, because we don't ever know when God's gonna make things not go our way. You see, it could be a test, or he could really be telling you to let go. Who knows? Only the Spirit at that moment, right? Because like another thing I say, God can lead us how he pleases. We don't control life. You see what I'm saying? We don't control when we're born. We kind of control when we go based on how we live, in a sense, but we really don't control that, right? So we have to stay formless. Stay formless. Don't be defined by the person you were last year or last week or yesterday. Don't be defined by that person. Continue to grow, continue to evolve, continue to adapt, continue to be open to God's direction. That's what it's all about. Being open to God's direction, right? Don't be stuck on the past of who you were, who you used to be, what you used to do, how you used to look at things. Be formless. So you continue to grow, continue to be open. So you continue to be on the lookout for God's word. Why meditation is important, because it tells you what's coming. It prepares you, right? And it's about the power of the book. The book I've been reading, The Power of Now. It helps to be formless. It helps you to be formless because it is basically talking about that moment. You have to be in that moment. You can't be in the past. You can't be in the future. You have to be in that moment. What's going on at this moment? What's the best decision I should make at this moment? So every day, every day is a new day with God, right? Every day is a new day. So what I mean by that, don't live a premeditated life. Don't live a premeditated life. Don't live a premeditated life. Now, all these things I'm saying, they come and go, and we still gonna do what we do, because we're human. Right? So, don't live a premeditated life. Be open to being spontaneous. You never know what God has for you from the day or tomorrow, from the next day. Don't be stuck in your ways. That's me speaking to me. And I don't even be stuck in my ways on purpose. It just happens like that sometimes. Because you never know. You never know. Have an open mindset at all times. Not controlling your life. Not controlling your life, right? So 1 Peter 2:16, just gonna throw this out there. It says, don't take advantage of freedom. Don't take advantage of your freedom, right? Oh no, 2:16, I'm tripping. Yeah. Live as free people, but do not use your freedom as a cover for evil. Live as God's slaves. So, and the thing of being formless, and being formless, we shouldn't say, oh, well, we shouldn't try to be two things at once, or, you know, live by the flesh and the spirit, and, oh, I can still live bad and live good at the same time. And things like that, because we're formless, we can't be identified. Now, that's not an excuse to just say, oh, I'm gonna do what I wanna do. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna do, if I feel spiritual, I'm gonna be spiritual. If I feel flesh, I'm gonna be fleshly. That's not a reason. Having our freedom to be formless and not be defined by anything is not a reason to live a double life, to say the least. And that's just something extra to keep intact, you know, because sometimes we can fall victim in, I guess, definitions, how we perceive words and things like that, right? So be formless is to be open, just in general, be open to God's direction. That's the main thing about being formless. Be open to His direction and don't get stuck on one way of living or how you see life. Like who I am today and what I'm doing, I may not be doing this in 2 years. I don't know. Cause I gotta stay open to God's direction. You know, is it gonna be a struggle to change me and be like, well, stop doing this, Demetrius, or stop doing that? Of course it is. I'm so used to doing whatever it is I'm probably was doing. But in 2 years, I'm gonna have to meditate and evaluate what it is I've been doing and be open to God's direction. You see what I'm saying? So in Deuteronomy 4, 15 and 19, this explains it all about God being formless. Deuteronomy 4, 15 through 19, right? This explains it all about God being formless. You saw no form of any kind the day the Lord spoke to you in Horeb out of the fire. Therefore, watch yourselves very carefully so that you do not become corrupt and make yourselves an idol, an image of any shape, whether formed like a man or a woman, or like any animal on earth, or any bird that flies in the air, or like any creature that moves along the ground, or any fish in the waters below. And when you look up to the sky and see the sun, the moon, and the stars, all the heavenly array, do not be enticed into bowing down to them and worshiping things the Lord your God has a portion to all nations under heaven. You see? So he's telling us, don't worship anything. Don't look up to the sun for blessings and none of that. Now, do these things have special powers and special effects and things like that? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Astrology, all these things has truth in them. The Bible, these things has truth in them, right? He said, don't worship them. You see? He said, don't worship them. And he used the word, right, in that verse. Called a portion, and use things for their portion in their right timing, but don't fully worship any of those things, right? He's no form. You can't look at nobody, no particular person, no matter how rich or famous they are, and be like, that's how God should be, or that's how I should be. No one person defines God. No money, no career, no personality, any of those things. Right. So the last part of being formless is how we look at other people. And we have to have a formless identity for other people. Right. Hold on, I want to say this. This is a quote that I listened to on YouTube one day. And it says, we are not born into the world is born into us. Now, what I get from that quote is we have a little bit of everything inside of us. Everybody is mixed with a lot of different things. Maybe you mix with different races, different personalities. We all mix with a lot of different things. We all are mixed with a lot of different things, right? Say this. I said. We have a little bit of everything in us. And see, this is how we, before I get into that, I just thought of some more stuff. This is how we live for God, right? Because water, air are part of the most obedient things, of the most submissive things under God. It's because water can become anything. You put water in a cup, you put water anywhere, it's gonna become whatever you put it in. It's gonna become that form. But in general, water is formless. It doesn't have no particular form. It does whatever people tell it to do. Same thing with air. Air can fill a room, air can fill a car, air can fill our bodies, water can fill our bodies. These things are submissive unto God. They become whatever they become at that moment, which is what we should do. Become whatever we should become at that particular moment, like water, like air. You see, those things can become anything at any time. You see, whatever we have to do, we take a drop, and we're all drops from the ocean. You know, we take a drop out of the ocean, put it in a cup, and that's us. But you put that drop back in the ocean, that drop becomes the whole ocean, right? So we all have a little bit of everything in us. You put us back in the ocean, we become the ocean. If you take us out the ocean, we become us. You see? Just like, you know, when we leave, when we've been being born, that's like the drop out the ocean. When we die, like a drop back in the ocean. We don't exist no more. We just like every other drop, right? So that was just a little some thoughts I had just now. All right. So I have a formless perspective of other people. Formless perspective of other people. Right. Don't assume. That's one, because we never know. We never know. Don't give titles. And what I mean by don't give titles, don't say, oh, that's a real nigga, or oh, that's a bad B, or oh, that's how a woman should be, or oh, that's how a man should be, or oh, that's what success looks like, or oh, that's what poverty looks like. Don't give titles. Don't give, you bossing them people in, you don't even know them, right? You don't know. You know what I'm saying? You just know what you feel, or you may be right, but don't give titles. Use discernment, and discernment is used just for how you deal with those people. If they for you, if they not for you. You see, you go left, you go right, or that's not for you. You're not particularly judging it. You just know it's not for you, and you're not dealing with it. But don't give titles. Don't give titles for people, right? Let them be whatever it is they're gonna be. Everybody has different aspects of life, right? So, like 2 Corinthians 4:18 says, don't focus on the seen, focus on the unseen. We're looking at people, but we don't really see them. You know, it's deeper than with just the physical that we're looking at. John 7:24. It say judge correctly, not by appearances, right? Judge correctly, not by appearances. Stop judging by mere appearances, but instead judge correctly, right? Now, we all judge, and they're just a part of life, you know. Even in our judgment, it should be formless, because like you see what you see in that person, and that may exist, and you gonna have to do what's best for you dealing with that person, whoever you may think that person is. But don't get attached to that perception of that person, right? They keep living like that, then that's just who they are. You know, that's them showing you who they are. So, like I said, people don't judge by appearances. So a person may appear weak, they may appear strong, they may appear superior, they may appear inferior, they may appear beautiful, they may appear righteous, they may appear unrighteous. You don't know. Judge correctly. We don't know these people. We don't know them. So judge correctly. You see, pay attention. Have a formless view. Everybody shows you who they are in due time, no matter how it looks on the outside. No matter how it looks on the outside. Another thing I want to say about judging people correctly is be diverse. Be diverse. Life is not just about us. 1 Corinthians 14:10. Undoubtedly, there are all sorts of languages in the world, yet none of them is without meaning, right? It's all different languages in the world, yet none of them without meaning. 1 Corinthians 14:10. There are many different languages, none of them are without meaning, right? People speak, people show love, people show hate, people are manipulative. People do all these things in different languages, different ways, right? Everything has a meaning. There are different languages in the world, and we're not just talking about racial languages. People eat their food differently, cultures are differently. People show love differently. Some people show love verbally. Some people show love with their actions. Everybody does things differently. Understand diversity, right? Understand diversity. And understand everybody's not going to do things the way you do them, but it may mean the same thing. So fast forward to Isaiah 40:15. Surely the nations are like a drop in the bucket. They are regarded as dust on the scales. He weighed the islands as though they were fine dust. Like I was saying, we're all drops in the bucket. None of us is more important than the other, right? None of us is more important than the other. So, 1 Corinthians 14:10. Be diverse. Be diverse. Yep. Isaiah 40:15. Is it? I said 40:15. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So be open to God's direction. Don't have a skewed viewpoint of anything. Just be open. Be open-minded. Don't think you know it all. Don't think you know what something is. Don't get tricked into looking at a person a particular way, good or bad. I want to say this about social media. Don't allow social media to define anyone, good or bad. Don't allow social media for you to like someone more or less. Just don't become attached to the physical. That's the main thing in how we view God, how we view ourselves, how we live, and how we view people. Be formless. Be like water. Be like air. Become what you have to become in that moment. Be like a chameleon, right? Be like a chameleon. Become what you have to become in that moment, right? Do not be attached to how you see things, your own way of living, the things you do on a daily basis, the things you're attracted to. Don't become attached to any of these things. Don't become attached to people or anything, right? Be open to God's direction. You can live how you live, do what you do, but be open to God's direction. You may have to adapt in the drop of a dime. You may have to become a chameleon in the drop of a dime. When you in a business office, you may have to adapt. When you with your homegirls, homeboys, you're a different person. You have to adapt to them. When you by yourself, you have to adapt to yourself. You adapt, be formless. Don't be defined by one particular way, right? People being defined is part of the ego. He a real nigga. So when you say he a real nigga, that means he has to do real nigga things every day, all day, even if it's not, whatever his definition is not meant for him to do that, he has to be that way, and that's his ego, that's his pride. He's a slave to his own flesh of living up to this real nigga persona. Or if I say I'm spiritual like me, I'm telling myself I have to be spiritual 24/7, but that's not true. You see, or if you're a certain type of woman, you tell yourself you have to be a certain type of way in all time, which is not true, because we are formless. Don't get caught up in these slave identities, because that's what they are, slave identities that makes us feel as if we have to be a particular way all the time, and if we don't be that way at a certain time, then that's not what that is, and that's a slave identity. You say you have to be open to God and not what people think. You don't have to live up to this real nigga image 24/7. Your image, what you think a real nigga is, may change in 3 years. What you think a woman is may change in 3 years. How you see something may change in 3 years, next week or tomorrow. Be open to God's direction, right? Don't get caught up on titles or anything. Be open to God's direction in all things. Love y'all.